course, last year or a couple of years ago, the news about Netflix. Let's talk about that. I'm sure, myself included, we are all excited. The Filipino geekdom is excited to see the Trese series on Netflix. Can you give us an update? Ganun.
Um,
And also
uh,
how it happened.
oh,
Yeah.
how it happened? Yeah. um, so yeah, I can't. Obviously, I can't tell you anything that isn't officially announced by Netflix.
Okay, yes.
So, so we'll have to wait for that. But yeah, I mean, so I have met with the team once over Skype,
Hmm.
and then I've had meetings with our producer
I'm sorry,
on
which
the
team?
two.
Which team was it?
So the production team of Trese is called Base Entertainment.
Okay.
Base Entertainment is an Indonesian-owned company, and
Okay.
one of their producers or their one of their chief creative officers is Filipina, so Tanya Yuson. So Tanya, I met when was that? Maybe 6, 7 years ago, or maybe longer. She had worked in studios in Los Angeles, so she's had experience working for Disney and Warner Brothers. She was part of the team that worked on Smallville, the TV show. And at that time, she had, it's around 6, 7 years ago, she came home to the Philippines. And so she thought of wanting to find local stories that could then be pitched for an international audience. So back then, it was more about trying to look for what can be turned into a movie.
Okay.
So originally, she was meeting with new writers and script writers, but thankfully, somebody recommended that she read Trece.
Okay.
So
Yun na.
she was able to get a copy, yes, thankfully, of book 3. And because of that, I got through a friend of a friend, I got an email from her, and we met up, and that's where we started to think of how what steps do we need to take to pitch Trece to a movie company.
Okay.
She eventually partnered up again with the Indonesian company Shanti Harmain, and
Were you
Shanti Harmain,
s-
sorry,
sorry, were you aware that this is happening? W- w- That they
yeah,
were you
well,
aware that they were looking at the that this was happening back then?
yeah. So after she read Trece, she quickly contacted me already.
Ah, okay.
So we met, soon after she read the book, we met up, and yeah. So I mean, we were providing her with artwork that they could use to pitch for to studios, to production companies.
Okay.
So it wasn't just a matter of giving them the comic book. Kajo actually came up with new artwork just to be able to show to the companies, this is what Press is all about. Um, so
Oh.
she, so her partner is Shanti Harmain, who is an Indonesian movie TV show producer.
Mhm.
And they were the ones that have been shopping Trece around all of these years. So for the longest time, we have been trying to pitch Trece as either a live action TV show or a live action movie. But for some reason or another, it never pushed through.
Mm.
So
When did you start entertaining the idea of having a Trece live action movie or series?
I think as far back as maybe 2007, when the
Okay.
first Trece book came out, I think one of the local studios already contacted us.
Mm. And how did it go? Can you tell which one?
No,
How did it go na lang?
because they asked for two things.
What?
Number one thing was they have complete creative control over the movie,
No way. No way. Oh.
and number two, they wanted to give Trece a love interest.
Oh, did you hear that, guys? Please react to that. Please react to that. What do you think would be the reaction of the people watching right now if you did that?
I mean, this is far back as book one, meaning I had not yet written the Maliksi as Dark Maverick, so there was not even a hint of a love interest of any matter. There was nothing to ship
Uh-huh.
if back then,
And
because I
they
was
have
still book
creative
one.
control. Oh my god.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it is typical. To be fair, it is standard. It is a standard wording in these movie contracts, right?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but yeah, it was just something that, it, hearing the stories from Image Comics, it just didn't sit well with me. But actually, that was one of the reasons why I held on to. I wanted to finish book two and three before I started to entertain or started to talk to studios again,
Mm-hmm.
because I wanted to make sure that the origin of Trece, and essentially like the establishing the Trece universe was complete. If you look at it between book one to three, firmly
Mm-hmm.
establishes what is Trece all about, where did she come from, and what is her family all about. So once I had book three done, then I felt more comfortable in, like, sharing this world with other people who'd want to create it. So yeah, so Tanya and Shanti started to work with me in Kajo in pitching it, and Trece has actually ended up in the hands of some very popular directors in Hollywood, and of course, I can't talk about it
Uh-huh.
because
Uh-huh.
the deal didn't push through.
Okay.
So I can say, oh yeah, that guy read Trece and that guy read Trece, but
Oh. Mm-hmm.
obviously it didn't. Nothing happened, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the funny thing was, on the year, was that 2 years ago, right? 2017. Ano na ba ngayon? 2018 pala, sorry.
2020. Oh.
The funny thing was, I think uh, at the beginning of that particular year, Trece got rejected again by a studio.
Mm-hmm.
But that was also around the same time Netflix anime division opened up
Mm-hmm.
and said, we want to produce anime from other parts of the world.
How do you feel about the term anime being connected to Trese?
Well, I think at the end of the day, it's Trece, the animated series, and if it's a marketing term that makes
Mm-hmm.
it easy for people to understand, it's anime.
Oh,
It's
okay.
done in a certain style, right? So,
I see.
um,
Do we have concept arts
so
already or not yet? Are
yes,
are they
yes,
out?
and look, no.
Oh, okay. Oh. I wanted to ask kanina how did it feel when you were getting these rejections?
Sorry, when we were.
When you were getting the rejections from the
Ah,
studios?
yeah, it felt like, uh, obviously, I mean, part of me was always hoping that this year was going to be the big year when we would get, yay, we get produced. Um, Interestingly enough, and I think I've written about this in one of the afterwards of Trece,
Mm-hmm.
every time I tell Kadjo na parang, oh, na-reject tayo na naman, he would be the one that would say, okay lang yung buds, basta tuloy lang natin yung comics.
Mm.
And, that for me is what I can hold on to. Parang, yeah, you're right. Kadjo is right. We have no control over what studios will like, what the
Mm-hmm.
producers will like, what the directors will like.
Mhm.
But whatever happens, we have complete control over our comic book. And, what happens in the comic book is up to me and Kajo, and, coming up with new stories is completely up to us. Trying to depend on like thinking, eto na yung, we're going to Hollywood,
Mhm.
is, 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 it's nice to have if it
Mhm.
happens.
Mhm.
But I think, yeah, the more important thing is that we focus on what do we have control over, and that's the stories we tell.
Mhm.
So it was great. So it was, parang the day I found out that Netflix approved the series.
Yeah.
I mean, I was in Denmark at the time. Kaja was already in Davao, and Tanya, I don't know if she was in LA or Indonesia when she found out the good news. So it was, parang if it was a Hollywood movie, we'd all be
Mhm.
like in the same room and we go, yeah, all right. Pero wala, parang
Yeah.
natanggap namin yung news, parang we were like, hey.
Well,
Tapos,
we did that for you guys. We did that for you guys. We were jumping. I was jumping. De, pero ano, pero I had the Indie Comics Indie Comics ano nga ba? IKP Indie Comics
yes,
Philippines ba?
yes, yes,
Indie Comics
yes,
podcast guys here, and
yes,
we were really happy. Diba? I think every one
yes.
of us were really thrilled to hear that news. And well, I think I and well, for the longest time you had been our best bet to break through Hollywood and Netflix mga ganyan. And it finally happened. And so you guys are gonna be the template for the rest of us to follow.
I think, well, thank you, thank you. Okay, there you go. Now we have like, um, it, I mean, I, yeah, I mean, I think I think it was a matter of persistence and luck
Mm-hmm.
that, again, right place, right time, having the right material ready. Um, and I have to just say, a big thank you again to Tanya and Shanti, because they're the ones that actually had to fly all the way to make the pitch every single time.
Mm-hmm.
Me and Kajo would provide artwork and write-ups, but they're the ones who did the hard work of pitching it.
Oh, really?
So it's really great that they were able to also get Jay Oliva. So Jay Oliva is Filipino, based in LA. And of course, for some of you who've Googled him, you know that he's the director of a lot of the DC animated movies. And he's also the favorite storyboard artist of Zack Snyder.
No, okay.
Uh, so to a lot of people who didn't like the scene where Superman and Zod were crashing through the buildings
Mm-hmm.
in Man of Steel, that's Jay's idea.
Okay.
So he was actually the guy that showed Zack Snyder, and he said, "You know what we haven't seen in a Superman movie? It's a scene like this." And then he showed Zack Snyder Dragon Ball Z.
Oh.
He showed him the fight scenes in Dragon Ball Z and said, "We've never seen anything like this in a Superman movie."
You mean to
And that
say
became the
Zack
inspiration.
you mean to say Zack Snyder never seen Dragon Ball Z?
Or maybe he never thought of Dragon Ball Z as a
Ah, okay.
inspiration for fight scenes for Superman.
I see, I see, I see.
Right, right. So it was really, I mean, it's great that he's and and Jay also has had experience working on like the Spider-Man cartoons, um, and actually at the start of the project, and again it was just sayang lang yung timing namin, hindi kami nagkita, is that he actually flew to Manila
Who?
at the start of the project. Yes, so they were on a secret mission. So it was never announced, but he was in Manila for a week or 2 weeks, I think.
Who's this? Zack?
Kajo got to. No, not Zack Snyder. Jay
Uh,
Oliva. Jay Oliva
okay,
got to
okay,
work.
okay, okay.
So
Okay.
Jay Oliva is our showrunner, executive producer, director
I see.
of the show.
Wow.
They came to Manila. Yeah, so they got to meet up with Kajo,
Mm-hmm.
and Tanya and Shanti put together a writing team. So the scripts are actually written by two Filipino script writers who've actually done some pretty great movies already that you guys have probably seen, but we can't talk about them. We can't talk about
Oh,
them yet.
more
Um,
mysteries. Love
so
it.
yeah, so they spent, and one of the fun things that Jay and his art director had to do was they had to commute around Metro Manila.
Oh, talaga.
Yes, yes. So they rode the MRT. So they now have a good, I mean, but Jay has been back in Manila like past couple of years, but
I see.
again he
So they
came back
scouted
home
the.
for.
I see. They scouted the feel of the city. Okay, okay. I wonder what were the places that were part of the itinerary nung ginawa nila yun.
Definitely Manila, of course. Quiapo, what do you call this, Malate area, which is supposedly where the
The
diabolical
diabolical.
is.
Mm.
Um, what do you call this, Quiapo Church, Intramuros, the Malate area, and then yeah, and around that time was when Poblacion started to become
Okay.
what it
To
is
pick up.
now. So they
Mm-hmm.
took a walk around Poblacion and they went to some of the bars there. But yeah, I think they got a good. I took a lot of pictures. Binondo, they went to Binondo.
mm-hmm.
So yeah, took a lot of photos and references, and they spent a whole day with Kajo, where Kajo just talked about the designs of the characters,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what they took home, and that became the source material for creating the look of the animated series.
I see. So how much are you involved? You yourself and Kajo. How much is your involvement in the Netflix project?
Yeah, so me and Kajo serve more as consultants, so we don't get to talk to them on a regular
I
basis.
see.
So we only get to see, well, I get to see stuff because I get to meet up with them face to face, and again, that's part of the deal.
Okay.
It's for, of course, secrecy and confidentiality.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to just email stuff around; it might leak. Um,
Oh.
so
Okay.
So yeah, every time I get to meet up with Tanya, that's when I get to see progress on the work. So yeah, and they have done. I read the scripts. It's the little that I can say. I read the scripts and they're great. So I think even if you are an old time reader, that you will be surprised at how they were able to adapt the story
Have they?
and how they're able to refresh the story for that matter.
Mm,
So yeah, I think it's not like you read the book, you already know how it's gonna end. So
mm-hmm.
no,
Oh, okay. I
it's gonna
see.
be
I
fun.
see. Have they finished any number of episodes already?
I think I'm not sure. I do know production has started, meaning animation has started. So maybe
Oh.
next time I come home, I'll have something more to tell.
Ah. You hear that, guys? We can hardly wait for that. And well, what I said when I was talking to the IKP guys, parang this news about Trese in Netflix, parang parang rejuvenated the spark in a lot of the comics, especially comics creators, 'di ba? Kasi this is not a novel that is ano talagang comics yung pinanggalingan na source material, and it is a comics that is created in their lifetimes. Kumbaga inabutan nila yung simula, 'di ba? Unlike let's say Darna, parang a lot of the young creators
Okay,
aren't
yeah,
alive
good
yet,
point.
'di ba? 'Di ba? So right now this is parang this is something that
So,
they grew up with, And parang nakita nila yung simula from the ashcan copies and until now, and 'di ba? And it's to me it's really inspiring. And I'd be honest myself, uh yun yung ano eh when I was kasi I stopped doing comics for a long time already pero yung when I was doing comics, parang yun yung parang ultimate goal. I wanna see my creation in the big screen, in the highest, with the highest level of production and the highest, kumbaga, sa Hollywood and all. Kumbaga, I'm sure that's the grandest vision anyone could have for their stories and
Yeah,
creations, di ba?
yeah,
Unless they come up with a new technology na that would top it. Yun, and you are, kumbaga parang yung full feature movie iba pa naman yung animated, 'di ba? Pero kumbaga at least konting
yeah,
lundag na lang, 'di ba? Kasi you'll never
yeah. I
know.
mean, we also thought that that's obviously that was the big goal for us.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think definitely. I think through anime, then it would be the best way to show, especially our all of our mythical creatures and all of the monsters that we showed in Trese. It'll be easier to depict and more dramatic to depict it in anime. So but yes, so maybe let's it would be great. Just focus first on the show, and maybe if it does well, that becomes a reason to do the live action one.
Oh, who would you envision? Would you rather a Filipino actress do the part or somebody else?
For the live action one.
If you're gonna let's say a high level Hollywood production would do a Trece movie, would you, if you have the power, would you insist to have a Filipino actor or for the
Yeah,
main role?
I think yeah, as much as possible. I mean, I think it would be. I would still want that. I mean, I would still want to find a way that that the viewer will know what are the roots of this comic book. If it's made for an international audience.
Mhm.
I mean, there is a big debate around, of course, the what do you call this? The Constantine movie with Keanu Reeves, right?
Mhm.
So, to the comic book fan, it should have been a British actor. It should have been set in London.
Mhm.
So that's why, you have this camp that doesn't like the Keanu Reeves movie.
Uh-huh.
But at the same time, the funny thing is, to people who've never read Hellblazer, for them, Constantine was a great introduction to the comic book.
Mm.
Uh, so I don't know. I and of course there was that whole controversy with Scarlett Johansson coming out as the Major in
Yeah.
Ghost in the Shell,
Mhm.
and um, so yeah, I don't. I mean, the first time I saw Constantine, I said you didn't have to call it Constantine. You could have come up with a completely new character, an American, mage, and you would still be fine.
Oh.
That was my point of view back then. But I love the story of the movie. But so yeah, so as much as possible, if it is adapted for a wider audience, then as much as possible, it would be great to show that it is all about Philippine, that it's rooted in Philippine myth and folklore with the actors for that matter.
Wow. I could just imagine the let's say they create a Star Wars level CGI,
Yeah,
and we see the Tikbalang, 'di ba? And the Bakunawa and the and the Manananggal. 'Di ba? Parang that would be such a thrill, 'di ba? Kumbaga, a swarm of Manananggal flying in the night, 'di ba? Parang 'di
with machine guns. Yes.
ba? 'Di ba?
Someday, someday, someday.